All right, we're on.
This is Amária Sweet with HeartMind Expressions, and today I've got Brendon Jones with me. My internet's a little bit shaky, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the time to him, and he's got an amazing presentation for everybody that just needs to be shared. So Brendon,
Thank you, Amaria. First of all, I just want to thank everybody who's been following me and with me on this journey so far. It's been a crazy 2020, and I'm sure 2021 is going to be even more exciting. But before I begin, I'll just introduce you guys a little bit about myself. I go by my spiritual name is Ram Das. I've been initiated into the Vaishnav tradition for about 3 years now, which involves the recognition of the supreme being existing within this as a manifestation of the creator in this world, what we know as like the source in all our bodies. There's so many phrases that people are familiar with now: God, source, Allah, Yahweh, all these phrases. The one power that resides in the heart of every living being and also lives outside of the creation has empowered me to educate the people on all aspects of life. And primary aspect we're going to be going in today is going to be the financial and legal side of things, because it's really the primary construction of the reality today is banking and finances. So back when I was a young child, my father got incarcerated for purchasing a prescription without a signature. And in those times, it was called, and it's still called that today, it's called perjury, okay? When you sign something or state something on paper, swearing something to be true, and then they confirm that it's not a fact, that's called perjury. And that is a high crime. That's a felony. And in the world, lying is not illegal. I can say so many things that aren't true, but because everything's commercial and about banking, what's on paper needs to be legit. And so if you have something on paper that's sworn in, like an affidavit, it's under penalty of perjury. So my father committed perjury, and so he got a 2-year sentencing for buying a $50 prescription bottle. And I'm about 8 years old at the time. And so I go up to my father, looking on the other side of the glass, and I say, "Dad, like, what happened?" And he's like, "Well, I bought my medicine and I didn't have the doctor sign it, so I got in trouble." And I'm like, "Well, then why don't you just give him the pills back?" And he's like, "Well, it doesn't work like that, son." And I said, "Well, how does it work?" And he said, "I don't know." And from that day, I pondered very scrutinizingly, like, what is this all about? See, I used to think that I was taught that, judges, police officers, public officers, politicians, all these people, these are good people and they're doing things to help us. I saw George Bush on TV, I saw all that stuff, and I really believed it. In my family, we were conservative for the most part. My father was a well-off architect for the federal government, and my mom was able to stay home and raise me and my brother. But after that incident, I realized like there's something going on that I don't understand. So first I thought it was the judge, like maybe the judge just didn't have an understanding. So I resolved to become a judge when I got a little bit older, thinking that would solve my problem. But then when I hit my teens, when I got into high school, I I saw that my father was getting in and out for all kinds of small things. Okay, he was living out in Colorado at that time. I'm here in Texas, and he's just going in and out for all these things that really don't mean anything, right? You get a traffic ticket to take you back in, right? You go 10 miles over the speed limit, something dumb like that. So uh, I was like, how are they able to, like, there's something called the Constitution, which I was familiar with. And I'm like, how are they able to do all this stuff? And where's the constitutional right?
seems like he was being targeted.
Say it again.
Oh, it seems like being targeted.
Absolutely. It's like, what, there seems to be some sort of incentive to be able to like convict people. And so I was like, where's his constitutional rights? You know, where's the jury? There's no jury. It's always just a judge. And after his, uh, he actually got another felony last year, or they tried to get him with a felony called verbal assault of the elderly. He had a verbal argument with his elderly mother, and the police were called, and they tried to charge him with a felony.
Wow.
It's insane. And I was at that time, by the time I had reached that age, I had learned a few key items of information. The first piece of information is that they've created what's called artificial persons in place of the real individual. Okay. They take our name and they place it in all capital letters, and then they stick that all capital name on all our financial documents, our debit cards, credit cards, our mortgages, our cars, our driver's license, anything that's registered on paper as a commercial piece of property has that all capital name attached to it. And what they do is they have you thinking that when you go into court that you're in an Article 3 judicial hearing, which is granted certain jurisdiction depending on the circumstance. But what they're actually doing is they're having you being tried in a military tribunal under Article 1. Congress can create tribunals and then enforce the statutory codes that they pass in these tribunals. And so there's only two types of jurisdiction in these tribunals, either civil or criminal. And if it's a criminal case, they only have jurisdiction if it's what's called a maritime jurisdiction, or essentially a commercial jurisdiction. Okay, they have to enforce commercial transactions. And what they do is they have you sign a bond when you get booked. And when you sign this bond, you essentially agree to a contract, because the legislature creates these courts and they are incorporated. They're privatized. They're also in all capital letters. So when you look on your docket sheet, it'll say the state of Texas versus your name in all caps. This state of Texas is a corporation, and these courts are adjudicating commercial equitable transactions. And so when they sit you in jail and then they have you sign a bond, you already agreed to the contract, and you come into the court and then they ask you, do you understand the charges being made against you? And in legalese terms, that means, do you agree to the charges being made against you? And then you say yes, thinking the judge is asking if you comprehend this. And then he asks you, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty? Are you going to pay the bond or not pay the bond? Okay, because you agree to the contract, are you going to pay for your part of the contract or not? And if you say not guilty, then they throw you into debtor jail. Okay, and they hold your body as surety, as a guarantee for payment. The Social Security Administration pays for your stay in jail, and that's how they make money. Which is, these are creditor and debtor relationships. Okay, the state becomes a creditor and you become the debtor because you're the one that's liable for the debt instrument. Okay, and then they have the man, the flesh and blood man, come into the courtroom as a surety or a guarantor for this artificial person that they're trying. And so I went in there and I gave notice to the court that I'm aware that y'all are trying this all capital name and placing a charge on the all capital name. I'm aware that the all capital name is always guilty, okay? It's an artificial person. It has no way to communicate on its own, so it's always liable. I understand that. But my father doesn't have a clue that's what he's doing. He thinks that y'all are charging him. So I'm going to come in and speak for him. So I want you to show me the bond so we can see who the owner of this bond is. If it has my dad's name in all caps, then in reality, that bond belongs to him because that's his corporation. And y'all are claiming interest in the bond, which is why you're having a case. Well, in my opinion, I have more interest in this bond than you. But I'm not, if y'all don't want to show me the bond, then that's okay. I'll just bring in the IRS real quick and have them come in and audit y'all and give me the bond and see whether you've been paying income taxes on all these bonds that you're cashing in on. Well, they did not like that. And so they removed me from the courtroom by force and scurried my dad out of jail as
No.
fast as possible. And when we'd go out to eat, these cops would follow us around waiting for us to leave town. Okay, these guys were just scared because they know this is invoking God's law. I am the real man, okay? Y'all are playing Monopoly, okay? And I'm not going to have something real happen to me because I didn't play the right move in a Monopoly game. And that's what they
Right.
do. So after releasing him, I realized like this is legit. Like there's something very real about this because until you have an experience, it kind of sounds like wooey, like kind of, you know, what people call conspiracy theory, sort of like no way that the state has created such a system of manipulation. But once you start interacting with these people, these public officials and others, and I'm not saying it's all of them, but it's a lot of them. And they have a 98% conviction rate. No way these people are that perfect. It's because they got you fooled that it's one thing that you're actually being tried for some sort of crime that you committed, but it's not. You were in contract with them and you violated the terms of the contract, and the Constitution can't protect you from that. In the first article of the Constitution, it says that a man has an unlimited right to contract. So that right to contract also means voluntarily giving up your economic power as surety in the contract. And that's what they do. It protects us. The 13th Amendment protects us from involuntary slavery, but it does not say anything about voluntary slavery, which is what they got everybody in. So
Right.
that's an introduction to kind of get you an idea that this is all about banking. It's all about creditor and debtor relationships. Okay, they want you to be the trustee, who's the fiduciary officer, meaning the individual who's responsible for all the bookkeeping and all the accounting. But in reality, the state should be responsible for that because they created these artificial entities. They're the one creating these corporate names. So they're supposed to be the trustee and you're supposed to be the beneficiary. That's supposed to be done for your benefit, but they're fooling everyone. And so, you know, one of the things you can do in a courtroom, for example, is you can appoint the judge as the trustee. You can be like, by the power, and Congress passed a bill, Power of Appointment Act of 1951. I hold you as trustee and as surety for the all capital name listed on the charging instrument. And you know, one of the individuals that I've learned a lot of this information from, his name's Yusuf L. He tells a story. He did this actually in court. He says, I appoint you as a trustee for the all capital name listed on the charging instrument. And the judge says, I don't want to be the trustee. Just straight up. So they know what they're doing.
All of a sudden.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, I don't want to do
do.
that. And so then they just, all right, you can go. Because there's no case. But they can't admit this stuff. They can't have it publicly on record. So they just get rid of the case instead of like saying you won. So like if you were to look up my case, for example, it would say that I lost. They dismissed all my paperwork, but they let my dad out of jail. So, you know, they're hiding everything. Right. So that's the background I come from, and that's why I decided to get into this stuff, because that's the spiritual truth behind it. So now I'm going to go into what I decided to be key for most, like every individual, and this is something everybody can get on board with, and that's credit. Okay. And so, yeah, I know you're excited, and I'm excited too. I've actually already helped a couple people today
I'm so
before we got
excited
on the
about
show.
this.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
I got
well, just what you're able to do.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, okay. It's okay. Most people have a general understanding how credit works, right? Credit essentially means like, how well do you handle your commercial affairs, and do you know what it is you're getting into, right? So if, you know, people have been taught like, you know, you want to build credit, you want to use your credit cards and like take out some loans, go do some sort of commercial activity. and then fulfill your side of the deal, and that'll give you good credit. That's like the basic idea of credit. But what a lot of people don't
Right.
understand is, in order for you to like open up a credit line, you need to already have credit and then create an account with another entity. Okay. But what people don't understand is that these corporations don't have any credit. They need the credit of the people to be able to power their corporation, right? Just like if you have Walmart, for example, Walmart is comprised of all of its, not only its buildings and its products, but it's primarily comprised of its employees and its people. You can't actually touch Walmart, right? Walmart doesn't exist. It's an idea on paper. But as soon as people get involved with it, it has some sort of power. So the people are the topmost sources of energy for a corporation. And so the same thing goes with credit. Whenever you take out a credit card, a bank cannot loan you credit. It's not actually possible. They actually you do what's called a credit card application. Okay, it's not a contract. What that means is you're applying your credit and then letting the bank use your credit on your behalf. So whenever you go and you spend money on your credit card, okay, your bank is actually basically being the middleman between you and this. They're doing the paperwork between you and the corporation that you're dealing with. Okay, and then they credit your account a certain amount of credits, and then they have you pay back the account. Okay. But what they did is, when you use your credit card, okay, they sent the money that they created out of this account that they made between you and them, and they sent it off to the corporation, and then they send you the bill for it. Okay. The bank just created money out of nothing, right? There's a
Right.
misconception that somehow the banks are using the money from their lenders to fund their credit lines, but that's illegal. That cannot happen. They're not allowed to do that. They cannot take depositors' money and use it to give out loans. And it says this in Modern Money Mechanics. This has been published by the Federal Reserve. And they've also said this in the Money of Accounting Statements. They've said this many times, that banks actually create money through their loaning transactions. So they're actually creating an account with you with this credit application, and then they create money and send it to corporations that you spend and buy things from, and then they send you the bill for doing the paperwork to create that money, right? Just like the United
So
States.
we can so to clarify really quick, for people, so we can basically take the bank out of the whole equation if we don't have to do that paperwork. For instance, I want to buy a new car. My car's falling apart. I need a new car, yada yada. If I know which different I don't know, the code or whatever that you're using,
Right.
particular papers, is that like what you're talking about? Basically, I mean, in basic layman's terms, and then turn that in and make the request. Would be let's say Amária Sweet, need a new vehicle, yada yada yada. This is the amount of money I need, and then they'll send that to you, and you can go pay cash for those. That's basically
Yeah.
understanding it.
Yeah, sort of. So let's just go through the process of buying a car, right? You go in,
Okay.
you go
Okay.
into here's the typical process. Okay, you go into the
Right.
dealership, which according to United States code, a dealership is a financial institution, just like a bank. Okay, they're a financial institution.
Okay.
So you go in there, and you pick out a car. They got a really nice salesman, a nice, suit and all that. Really, really showing you all the bells and whistles, all that. Really just distracting you with all the shiny stuff. And then they bring you into the office to close. Okay, and you'll notice when they give you a promissory note to sign. They're having you right then and there create a promissory note, which is the value of the asking price of the car. you'll notice that the dealership is not signing this note. Only you are signing this note. Okay. And then they have you sign a contract that says, we have your permission to take your note and use it to cash it in. Okay. And then after we cash it in, we're going to charge you the value of the note for doing this process. So you're going to have to pay us back, and we'll do it in installments. Okay. So the car is already paid for. You signed that piece of paper and you did it 3 times, which is, it's the rule of 3. You signed your name 3 times on that promissory note. And then they take that promissory note and then they can sell that on the market, right? They can get that and they can make money off that. And then they turn around and then they create an account and they credit that account, the value of the promissory note. And then they use that to pay off the car. And then they make you pay for in the amount of the promissory note in Federal Reserve notes in installments. Okay, so let's say they sold you a $20,000 car. They made 40 grand plus interest on that transaction.
Jeez.
Yeah, and so that's
dirty.
Yeah.
Wow, that is so dirty.
That's what every bank does. Okay, whether it's a mortgage, a car loan, a business loan, doesn't matter what it is. That's how they do it. And so that's how the system works, okay? But you have to be a creditor and you have to know banking to know how to write your own notes and to know how to give them instructions how to tender the notes. Because they created the promissory notes, they have instructions on how to tender it and cash it in. But if you create your own, you have to be able to tell them how to cash it in. So you have to know how the whole process works, how the tax identification number is being used, where the credit is coming from. Understand that a lot of people, they're learning about this stuff. There is no secret account that's holding money. An account is a place where it's a ledger where debits and credits are being moved around. That's what an account is. So it's about offsetting and moving debits and credits around. There's no cash in a vault somewhere. It's not like that. The money doesn't exist. It's just out there in the world. So until you can learn how to do that, you should first learn how they're using your corporate name to create a credit line and how you can clean that up. And it's really easy. So this is the service that I offer. So, near the end, I'll give everybody an opportunity to contact me if they're looking to get their credit fixed. But I'll just explain to you very briefly what it is that they're doing. Okay, so they're taking your corporate name, your all capital name that's attached to the Social Security number, and then they're putting a lien on that number, right? That's called collections. That's why when you pull up your Social Security account, you have these different inquiries and all different items in your credit report. These are liens against the Social Security number, okay? But there's certain rules that these corporations have when it comes to placing liens on this number. For example, a bank or any other financial institution, if they sell the debt off to a collection agency, then the debt you're no longer liable to pay the debt. That debt belongs to the collection agency. And so the collection agency is banking on your fear that they can make you pay them by scaring you, by saying that they'll threaten to put a lien on you. And if you agree to have a lien placed on you, they can garnish your wages and do all these other things. Okay. They have to get your consent though. So what I offer people is you actually just give the credit bureau notice that, hey, a collection agency has placed a lien against my Social Security number. This goes against the Fair Credit Reporting Act that Congress passed a couple decades ago. So I need you to remove this from my report. And it's as simple as that. Then the collection agency, they have 30 days to respond. And if they don't respond, you can send them another letter, a notice of default. And then they must do that, or then you have a lien on them. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. And so it's just that simple. And then you got to realize that when you're using your credit card, that money is yours. You can go back and collect it later, but you have to learn how it works slowly.
Right.
So the
Right.
best thing to do, in my opinion, is just to do what you already know is familiar, your credit, and clean it up first. And
Right.
then once you get it cleaned up, then you can start learning, you can start using it. For example, you can incorporate your name and put your phone bill and your car note and everything else on there and build business credit with that. And then learn how to use that. That's a really good gift I recommend to a lot of people. Incorporate your child's name and then just put some sort of credit on there, build credit for them. So by the time that they're adults and they go out, they already have a lot of business credit, and they can go in and start a business right there. So you have to learn how to do that first, and
That's
then
really
learn.
amazing information.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we have to learn, and this is the next little segment I want to get into. We have to learn that this entire world at this moment is completely banking and commercial related. It's all commerce.
Right.
And so they have, you're familiar, it's called the Uniform Commercial Code. And the Uniform Commercial
Mm-hmm.
Code is that every country that has a central bank has adopted this code and they've codified it, meaning they've basically taken the Uniform Commercial Code and interpolated it into their laws. Okay, so here we have US code, and the US code is based on Uniform Commercial Code. So it has the same implications. And the Uniform Commercial Code is Admiralty Maritime uh, law, meaning the laws of the sea or the laws
Right.
of the ocean. Right? If you're on my boat, I'm the captain. What I say goes. If you're in court, the courtroom is literally a docked vessel or a docked boat, and
Yeah.
the judge is the captain. Okay, and you're the one. You are the cargo. And what the judge says in that courtroom is law. The Constitution, all that other stuff does not apply. That applies on land. They got you in the sea. This is why when you're born, they stamp your foot on a piece of paper before you even touch the ground. They put your footprint on what's called chattel paper, and that chattel paper is a document of title, meaning it creates interest in property. So they start you off from there and they get
That's
consent
just sick.
from the mother. And then they take your mother's maiden name and they place it on the birth certificate, and they put the father's surname on the birth certificate, meaning that they have a bastard child registered. Okay. It's not, y'all are, even if you actually are married, the child's considered
Mm-hmm.
born out of wedlock because it has the mother's maiden name on the paper and the
Wow.
father's surname. So the state then takes place of fathership in the relationship, and then they label the father
Wow.
as a custodial parent. Right, he's the custodian or like the caretaker of the property. But as soon as the state decides that you're no longer fit to take care of their property, to bring in child protective services and revoke your
Oh,
property
yeah.
privilege. So
I can definitely say yes, and they are no fun. They're so not fun.
no, they're not. And they're called child protective services. So it implies that it's like some sort of company or some sort of service. Like, don't you pay for those? Like that's
Right.
commercial. Everything's commercial. Like, and it's because you have when you gave us, and they wait for the mother to be the most vulnerable. She just gave birth to a child. They get in there, have her sign a application to get a social security number, and then they have her sign a birth certificate and stamp the kid's foot right there. They cut the cord real quick, have the father sign it, being as a witness to the trust contract, and then they take it in and they file that with the Department of Commerce, with the Department of Treasury, with the U.S. Treasury, and then with the Department of Vital Statistics. And now they have the original document, and then they issue you a couple weeks later a certified copy of that document. Right. So then you get the copies of everything. You have a copy of your title to your car. You'll see it says certified copy of your title. They have the original title. You'll see that you have a deed of trust. You usually have a copy of that. The original deed is in the hands of the bank. You can go on. Anything that you register commercially, you have a copy, they have the original. And so you need to learn what constitutes an original, what constitutes a copy, what's the difference, how do you use it, right? Nobody really knows any of this stuff. They think money's money, but it's not. All this stuff, a birth certificate has monetary value. It has a certain amount of dollar bill value attached to it. And they're using that as a
Right.
means to take out future loans, right? We have to be aware of all these things. So what do we do? What's going on? How do we get out of this? What do we need to do? Well, we first want to look at what the spiritual aspect of all this is. What we need to do is we need to stop playing games. Literally, this is a game of Monopoly. It's okay to play Monopoly. Monopoly's fun, but we need to quit pretending like Monopoly's the real thing, dude. When we got a pile of dishes and we got a garden full
Right.
of weeds that we haven't been doing anything with. So we got to go back to
Very
the
true.
real thing. We got to start producing things. A real economy is how much are the people producing. That's the real economy. The financial economy is how many digits are in the stock market. Okay, these are two different things. What's going on in the stock market is not the actual economy. What you're doing at home and out in the world is the real economy. Are you producing goods or are you offering services? That's the real economy. So first thing you need to do is you need to find the thing that you excel at and that you enjoy doing and that is unique to you. And you need to do that and have the resolution that God has placed that purpose for you in your life and that you will succeed with it and you will excel. And there's easy ways to do that. For example, I never thought that I would do what my father did. My dad was a contractor for 30 years. As soon as I got out of college, I started doing landscaping and contract work, and I did really well at it. And so he was also very intelligent. He always was. I was homeschooled. He was part of my education, so he educated me a lot. He was a really good teacher, and so that's something that I've decided that's like part of my role. And everybody has something like that. We need people to make food. We need people to produce goods. We need people to take care of other people. We need these things. And so
Right.
we need to have real substance for substance, right? We used to have, it used to be how many cows did you have? How much grains were you producing showed how wealthy you were. Like nowadays, it's how many digits do you
That's
have
true.
on your phone, which, things totally changed.
Right. It's totally monopoly. It's
Yeah.
absolutely monopoly. And this artificial reality, basically, that's been constructed versus the organic reality. What is it that would take that artificial reality and allow us to set our minds straight to keep that higher mind on track so we can get back on the right path?
First step is knowledge. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that all suffering in man's life is due to lack of knowledge. So the first thing we need to do is we need to resolve that I'm going to learn what this reality really is, how does it work, and what is my relationship with it. Okay, and that requires some study. I have if people want to learn more about it, they can get with me and I'll be happy to share with them. But, reading things like American Jurisprudence, Corpus Juris Secundum. I have a book called The Banker's Secret Manual that people can get a hold of. There's all these kind of books. You want to be literate, learn how to read. And then, of course, the most important thing is you need to learn the actual spiritual truth that you are a soul and that your soul exists within this body. It powers this body, just like your signature powers that car loan. The soul powers the body. Mm-hmm. And you learn that through the Bhagavad Gita. That is the science of self-realization. And so the education of that understanding, that's the first step. Then the second step is to take some sort of action with that knowledge. That's called wisdom, implementation of knowledge and experience. So you can do certain things like file what's called a UCC1 financing statement. Because everything is commercial, you can actually file a notice saying that I have first in line commercial interest in these assets, meaning my all capital corporate name, my social security number, my driver's license, any sort of instrument or transmitting utility I use in day-to-day commerce, those belong to me. And I'm the first one. Let's say that payment is demanded to one of these places. I'm the first one to receive payment. If other people try to place a statement or a notice of interest in it, they come after me. That I'm the first. So that's one of the first things that you do. This is called correcting your legal status from being an American citizen, which in Roman law means a subject, to being an American national or someone who's born on the land of America, right? Like you are someone who you're a living flesh and blood man with a soul, and you represent this corporate fiction. You use this corporate fiction in your video game avatar Sims in that place. Okay, that matrix that you want to call it, whatever. Yeah, I call it the banking commercial reality. Okay, you need a corporation, you need a paper name to do paper work, and then you need a real name and a real body to do real work. So those are the first two things that I recommend people do. And then after that, like the possibilities are endless. Then, in my opinion, the next step is people got to start coming together and doing this stuff together. As soon as I started figuring out that it's true and it's real, I told everybody about it as much as I could. I didn't care who said it wasn't real or who said that, if it makes you feel a certain way, that's okay. But the truth is the truth. So that's the most important part, because the truth will plant a seed and eventually people will start to realize what's really going on. I've had many friends come back to me, and when it first happened, they all kind of thought I was kind of like a conspiracy theorist and I was just kind of tripping out. But now they realize, like, okay, I think, something really real is happening, because a similar situation will happen with them. And they're able to see, like, oh, I remember Brendon was telling me, like, this is how they do things. And now they're coming to me, and now I've shared this information with them and they took it and ran with it. I got someone listening in right now who's really close to me. He actually works with me to help share this knowledge. We'll be posting this clips of this on our site. And he took this information and just ran with it. He's been going with it, and I've never seen him more happy before and more focused and driven to really like resolve to make this reality someplace desirable to be. So this is this information, I think, is the key.
Right. Well, and I've been learning little bits and pieces here and there about UC, which is used in the UCC for those that don't understand, and then getting rid of the straw man and basically doing what you're saying. And everything to me was just so confusing that it's just like, well, God, how do I do this without really screwing it up? And like out the exact steps, and then if you want to do a specific thing, that you can go to this particular issue. Maybe you want to purchase this thing, you do this, or maybe you get in trouble by the law, you get a speeding ticket or something and you need to resolve that, then you go to this thing. Is that kind of what you're talking about, that you guys have a system on that works that way? Or do you want to explain how your system works?
I'm actually partnered with well, I say partner. Right now I'm just doing this on my own accord. I'm actually, if you can hear me, Yusuf, I'm calling you, man. I want to work with you. But I'm giving people a shout out to your information, because it was your information that saved my family's life. Okay. He's got a website called Secure Party Creditor University. And he teaches you all this stuff, like anything that has to do with criminal cases. It's called Handling a Presentment. He has tons of content on all this stuff. And he teaches you how to do all the paperwork and how to read the law and interpret the law correctly. I did that, and that's what I'm doing. So the first step is understanding. Let's say, for example, that you're reading the Constitution. You need to read that document at least 7 times to be able to really understand what it means. Okay, understanding is the primary way. I could give you a million pieces of paperwork to file, and you could file all of it perfectly. And as soon as they take you into court, they're going to ask you, okay, what did you mean by this paper? And they're going to realize that you don't have any idea what you're doing. And then they're just going to dismiss you and go along proceedings as normal, how they've been doing. So I recommend you go over to him. I'll send you the link to that so you can share with the viewers. But that is the system. And right now, our site we're building is to educate people on this topic. Oh, looks like I lost her. Hang on one second, guys. Let me make sure I get her back in.
There we go.
Okay,
It knocked me out.
No worries, no worries. We'll just cut that out. But anyway, yeah, he has the whole system already in place. So instead of me trying to rehash the whole system, I'm gonna recommend that you go over to him. But if you want like personal one-on-one consultation because everybody's situation is unique. It's not very cookie cutter. Everybody has a remedy that is unique to their situation. And something I excel at is really getting into the grit of what's going on with people and to be able to steer them in the right direction. So they can get with me and I'll be happy to consult with them on that. But when it comes to if you want to get some textbook material, you want to do some stuff like that, go to SPC University and then go to your local law library. Those are the two places I recommend.
Awesome.
Yeah, and if you want to fix your credit, though, let's say that you need money to be able to afford some of this stuff, you want to get a secured credit card, you do all that stuff, that's where you can come to me. I can help you do that for very affordably without breaking the bank. That's what I do.
I definitely work with you on that because there's a lot of things that I've been wanting to learn. And so, yeah, I'm ready to do this.
I think everybody's ready because I think God's giving us a chance to really prepare for a lot of change is going to be happening pretty quickly. So don't while you want to make a decision rationally and calmly, don't procrastinate and don't let fear paralyze you from doing something that's for your own good. Don't use there's so many people that use words like scam. Scam just means scared about money. That's when people yell that word out all the time. Oh, he scammed, this scam, scam. No, dude, you're just scared.
Yeah.
And you don't know, how do I look at something and determine if this is going to be beneficial for me or not? That's your problem. You're doing things that you haven't determined whether they're going to help you along your predetermined goal or not. So if one of your predetermined goals is to be financially stable, well, then fixing your credit is a no-brainer. And I can certainly vouch that the service that I'm offering worked for me, and it worked. It's already been working for people that I've been talking to. So, you can take my word for it. For me, my word and my reputation is everything. It's very important to me. So, as they say, let God strike me down if it is something that is not helpful for everybody. But we have to get together too. Something I actually was talking about with some of my fellow colleagues that I'm going to be adding you as well is a group, small business prayer group, because we can promote and stuff all day, but really it's the mind, that's the mental energy that's attracting us abundance. So if we can all get together for a short period of time and focus on the same thing, then we can bring in huge waves really quickly. We can really start getting the ball rolling.
Masterminds are.
Yeah, and it does.
They're extremely powerful.
Yeah, they call them think tanks. Well, what do tanks hold? They hold a lot of stuff. They hold energy, water, they hold the vital force. So if you can just do that, then I don't need you to buy my stuff or all that necessarily for you to support me. Just your intention and your ability to channel the soul's potency into the world, that's key and vital. So that
Absolutely.
that conglomeration or that that coexisting, that co-creatorship that we all have. If we can implement all those things, then there will be no more confusion. Okay, every problem has a solution that already exists. We just have to bring it and anchor it down into here. There's nothing that we can do. We just have to have calm,
Very true.
steady minds and be able to perceive where we are in relation to everything else. So let's get on the ball, y'all. Let's fix your credit. Let's become bankers. Let's become who we know we're supposed to be. Let's be the badasses that we know we are.
That's what I'm talking about.
Now, did you have any
Awesome.
questions
Well,
for me?
it's a very, I think the audience is going to have questions anyway, because, you know, like you said, it's not a cookie cutter type situation where everything's going to work for everybody the same. And so, of course, each person would need to get to know you as a person and vice versa, so that you can know what best way to work with that person and changing their corporate identity with their straw man, and being able to get their basically ownership of themselves, which is
Absolutely.
what we all should be doing anyway. And so I think just basically where they could go to find the information that they could, you know, get a hold of you, and then the process, because this is very important for so many people right now, especially where we've had the, you know, CCP BS going on, and the face diaper garbage, and, you know, all that stuff. I'm not going to go into terms because we know certain shadow banning things tend to happen. So, but yeah, let's go ahead. And what's your information that you would like to share with people so that they can start and get the ball rolling on their freedom?
Okay, well, you can contact me numerous ways. You can contact me. We have our Facebook page up on Facebook right now, facebook.com/Sovereign Swine. This is the name of our company that a friend of mine are rolling
Okay.
out at the moment. And they can also get with me on my own personal page, which is Brendon O. Ramdas, my spiritual name, Ramdas. Um, and I'll post links to all that. They can also get with me. I have a business line. You can shoot me a text at 817-381-8531. And I'm always available
Okay.
to be helping people with that kind of stuff. Um, and, you know, if you want to do personal consultation work, I'm happy to work with you on that to see where it is that you need to go. And then I'll also be posting a link to SPC University. So I'll acquire a link for you guys. So I'll actually be able to get, you know, it'll help me if you decide that you want to educate yourself on that stuff. That throws me a little bit of commercial energy also. It's really beneficial. So those are the main places that you can contact me. And you can also go on my YouTube page, Soul's Kitchen. I will link that as well. I have to do a little bit of an update on it, honestly. I haven't touched it in a while. I've been doing so many other things, but um, I have my testimony video up there as well as a few videos about law. And they'll expect a lot more content on there in the future, as well as on our Sovereign Swine YouTube channel.
Perfect. Yeah, I've been very intrigued by the information. It's funny because it's been several months, and it was like $100, I think, to sign on, which really isn't bad. And I lost the link, and life goes, and it's been crazy. So I'm excited that we're able to reconnect and get this going again, because I'm ready to get this done. And anybody else out there, listeners on C4OC Radio Network, Rev Radio, as well as Enlightenment Network, you could post below questions that you have, and I'll make sure that Brendon gets a hold of you. Also, Captain Stevo, Denny Ray, or anybody on the stations, they can also get questions to me. So
Excellent.
feel free to ask questions. And if we have plenty of them, we would love to get you back on as well. Because we have people say, hey, I can so-and-so answer this or that, and we could definitely do a sequel as well for any questions.
Yeah, I'm happy to take on calls. I'm happy to take on people that got questions. Like, let's all get together, man. I'm here to help the people.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for doing this today, questions, and yeah, I guess we will see you guys next time. And thank you so much, Brendon, for sharing.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.